and then it just never works again.
Okay, you just
But Jenna, thank you so much for coming on the podcast, making a little bit of time out of your evening to come on and speak to myself about all things music for yourself. We'll talk about all different things, whether it be songwriting, obviously learning your instrument, your thoughts on everything from that to everything in between and everything else as well. But before we get started, though, how are you actually doing?
I'm doing amazing. I'm actually doing amazing.
That's good.
There's times where it's been a little bit overwhelming, especially recently, over the last couple of months. And normally I have a quiet time between sort of January and March. That's like my winter period where everybody's had their Christmas sort of nights out. And Christmas is a mental time for musicians anyway. That January, March, I can go, now we can chill. That's not happened this year. Didn't really happen last year, but it's definitely not happened this year.
Yeah, I mean, I play the pubs and all that as well, and I try to take January off because it's so soul destroying going in the January because there's nobody there. Everyone's skint after Christmas.
Yeah, I mean, what I've noticed though, especially in Inverness and Murray area this year for the first time, people aren't having their Christmas nights out maybe in December. They're doing it more January time.
Yeah.
Because they're how busy it is at Christmas and how nobody has money because they're getting ready for Christmas.
Yeah, but you don't have the Christmas cheer when it's January.
You don't know. You don't at the same time.
But Jenna, what I like to do with all my guests is I go back to the very beginning for them. So where originally are you from?
I'm from a small town called Buckie. So I was born in Inverness, lived there, here, for 4 years, and then grew up in Buckie. I moved back to Inverness when I was 21. So I've been back here for 14 years now, 14 years.
Cool. And see, when you were young, like very young, were you exposed to music from a young age? And if so, where did that come from? Was that your parents or siblings?
No, so I grew up and did local theatre work in the beginning. And I had a big, massive spotlight on me. And I was singing in front of 300 people at the age of 13, 14, and I couldn't see a thing. I couldn't even see the front row because the spotlight, you're talking 20 years ago with spotlights, it was just slap bang in your face. And that's how it started for me. And I didn't really have much confidence, and it sort of started growing from there. I had a lot of country influence growing up. My parents were heavily into country music, so the likes of John Denver especially being one of them. Yep. And from there, it's just developed into me just taking slots in between disco sets for DJs, starting off, and then just progressing to where I am now, I suppose. Yeah,
that's fine. And obviously, like most people, they'll get an influence from their parents. You listen to what your parents are listening to. You're stuck in the car. You can't change the stereo or that from the back seat. But what age were you then when you discovered your own musical taste, like bands for yourself that your parents weren't aware of? What age were you when you discovered your own musical taste, and who were some of the artists that you started to discover?
Oh gosh, I think even then I would have probably been 11 or 12. And it started with the likes of Blondie, with Fleetwood Mac, Stevie Nicks, obviously. Nickelback was one of them that I remember growing up and listening to quite a bit, and even went to see them in concert. But I was probably around that age when I started really getting into your sort of mainstream stuff. But again, that also comes back to a little bit of parents in amongst all that as well. So I liked all that kind of music, and I took a lot of influence from it. So it's why I went to study music in Aberdeen when I left school at 17. So I did 4 years in Aberdeen. But that was completely different studying of music compared to what I thought it was going to be, but it still helped me vocally, which was great.
I mean, if your parents expose you to good music, there's no reason to get rid of it when you discover your own musical taste. You can still keep that. It's fine. It's only if their style's rotten that you want to get shot at. But I had a wee look on your Facebook because I was like, I don't know what age Jenna is, so I was like, right, I'm going to go and look it up. I won't tell anybody, but I was like, the reason I'm asking what your age was for this next question. I was going to say, what was the first, do you remember what the first album was that you ever bought with your own money?
You know what? I don't think I do. Actually I do. And it was just...
Are you brave enough to tell me?
I don't know if I am, but it was literally a generic compilation album. It was like a Pepsi Max charts. That's when it was at the time. It was Pepsi Max charts. I can't remember what year it was, but it just had a mixture of all the different chart stuff that had been out at the time. And apart from that, it was Shania Twain was the one that I remember buying after that.
Was that Come On Over by any chance?
Yep.
Well, first of all, the reason I was talking about your age there was I had someone on the podcast last season, and I didn't know what age the girl was. I thought she was older than she was. So when I said to her, "What was the first album you ever bought?" she turned around and said, "I've never bought an album before," because she's of a generation that never bought albums. It was just always available to them. So that blows my mind, because I'm 10 years older than yourself. So, I'm of the generation where when I was younger, you went to a music shop and you purchased, a physical album that you could hold in your hands. And the reason I was saying the Shania Twain one was the end of the 90s, I worked in a music shop for about 6 months, and you were only, when customers were in the shop, you were only allowed to play an album from the top 5 of the charts, and the number 1 album was Come On Over by Shania Twain. So for 6 months, I had to play that on repeat for 7 hours every day. So although I'm a rocker at heart, I'm ashamed to say that I know that album inside out.
I can imagine you know most of the words to the songs as well that's in that album.
And the looks my girlfriend gives me when I start singing word for word Shania Twain songs, she's like, "How? Oh my God, it's like you've just been to see Iron Maiden. Why are you singing Shania Twain?" But what was if that was your first album, then what was your first professional concert that you attended, and where was it that you went to?
Oh, we're going back a bit now. First professional concert I went to. I can't actually remember going back years and years and years about going to different concerts. I think it was more my sister that did. All I have is memories of my sister going to concerts. I didn't really go. It sounds a bit weird. I've been sort of like a little bit of a home bird. My first festival was when I joined Pete and Diesel and Hepkilt a couple of years ago, and I've been at a festival before.
All right, okay.
It's a little bit mad. And I was like, this is my first festival. And I was like, they were like, really? And I was like, yeah.
but that, I suppose that's a pretty good starting point.
Yep, absolutely. Yeah. Absolutely. Though I will say I've seen Shania Twain live, I've seen Nickelback live, Sam Smith, Kylie Minogue, a couple of other ones as well. But it's more that I've never been able to find weekends that actually match in with availability for me to be able to go and see any artists.
So see, where you are just now in Scotland, where would you need to go if one of those big acts was coming? Would it be Aberdeen?
Probably Glasgow. You could go Aberdeen, but it would probably be Glasgow that most people would go to.
Right, okay. So I know that you play piano.
Yeah.
And obviously singing as well. Which one came first for yourself?
Piano. I was in the choir in primary school and was kicked out of the choir. I then believed in myself that I wasn't good enough to be in the choir and started learning how to play piano. And then I taught myself by playing piano how to sing.
Right, so completely self-taught pretty much.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. And then I did some theatre work and learned meanings behind songs and why when you look at lyrics you can relate to them so well, which is probably why I focus so much on that nowadays, even though I'm not a music theatre voice.
Yeah.
And when it comes to then going off to uni, it was honing in on where my voice is and looking after your voice, because your voice, with it being such a main instrument, if you're not using it properly, it can just, yourself, it can just go for whatever reason, and you're just a couple of weeks going, what's happened to my voice? It's just about looking after it.
Yeah, I play guitar and sing, and I never did lead vocals until maybe about 3 years ago. It was always lead guitar and backing vocals, and then lockdown hit, and I just decided to switch it up and start doing rhythm and main vocals. And I can remember for the first, trying to do a gig, maybe the first hour and a half, I'd be fine, and then my voice would go because I was singing, I was using my throat wrong, or I was doing it wrong. And then, now you're doing 3-hour gigs. And there's times where don't get me wrong, there's times where I'm like, I'm glad that's finished. There's other times where I'm like, I could quite easily go for another 2 hours. Like, my voice feels that good because you know what you're capable of. But it's interesting that you say that, because I asked someone who was a singer as well. I think people forget that singing, your voice is an instrument. And, depending on who you ask, you need to look after it. But what I'd asked them was, your voice will naturally age over time as well.
Mm-hmm.
How do you think your voice is today compared to, say, 10 years ago? Do you think it's changed at all? Or do you just think the way you sing, you're more capable?
100% it's changed. So 10 years ago, my voice was a lot more... bad to say it, innocent sounding than what it is now. I have a lot more gravel and grit in my voice compared to whatever it used to be. And I remember people saying to me 10 years ago that I still had a lot to develop with my voice. Mm-hmm. And some of that, I think, will be years of gigging, and other parts of that is me learning how to do different rasps or tones, or using your voice in different ways. Because yes, everybody that sings will know how to use their diaphragm and how the best way to breathe is for being a singer and how to look after their voice. But there's different ways and methods that you need to learn how to sing songs. And only by learning the methods can you figure out how your voice works for it. So it's only now that, like in Mad Friday last year in December, I did a 7-hour gig. I don't know how I did a 7-hour gig, but I did it. And then still had 3 gigs over the weekend to do as well. And again, always 3 hours at a time. But it's figuring out your limitations, what you can, what you can't do, and doing it to the best of your ability.
Yeah. The thing I've also seen with singers is an element that people forget about singing is also confidence. And you can't teach confidence. And I see it sometimes, it holds people back because you know they've got the ability, they've got a great voice on them, but their lack of confidence can sometimes hold them back. But I think the only way of getting around that is to get out there and just to do it. And as you say, over the years, you get your confidence, you realise what you're capable of doing, your voice will change, and you'll find, I think, maybe what the style is that suits yourself as well. It can take a wee while to figure that one out.
Yeah, I think when it comes to the confidence part, I'm quite a shy person, and when I sing in the likes of the pubs and things now, it's a matter of literally putting a face on. Like, I get my makeup done for me basically for most times that I do a gig now, but that's me literally putting my face on to give me that confidence to stand there and sing and to hold a room, and to know that when you're singing in a pub that you're part of an experience of families and friends coming together, stag parties, hen parties, whatever. You'll know yourself as a singer. It's such a humbling experience to be part of that. It's a beautiful thing. And it's about, I think, being a little bit kinder to ourselves as well, because I think our brains is the one thing that disrupts us so much. When we talk about lack of confidence and not believing in ourselves, it's only our brains doing that to us. We're only hurting ourselves by saying we can't do things.
Yeah, I've got a bit of a love-hate relationship with the gigs. I've been doing them in the pubs now for probably about 15 years, but I've played in bands for, I'm old enough now that it's probably 30 years that I've been sort of playing in bands. But there's nothing like building confidence, go and play in a pub in Glasgow or something like that. And it's like, the thing, I think it's that thing, like, if you watch somebody playing sports, it looks easy because they're so good at it. I don't mean to kind of, blow my own trumpet kind of thing, but I know that if you give me a guitar and vocals, as long as the sound system is okay, I'll be able to play a good tune, and I'll sound okay. But it's like, it's just how to deal with people, and obviously you're sober, everybody's drunk.
Yep.
And when people are drunk, they come up and they tell you what they think, whether you ask for it or not. And I used to write down on my phone all the stupid things that people would say to me at gigs, and then I used to like entertain my dad and say, right, what happened last night? Oh, this is what was said to me, and blah blah blah. And it builds confidence for sure, or it makes you know that it's not for you.
Yes, I think it's either way. The thing is, though, people can be like, even if, whether it's to your face. I mean, I've had it for years now, and I get some comments that no woman should ever have to hear. They're standing singing the pub, but at the same time, there's all these keyboard warriors as well, and that's with part of the digital world nowadays. You've got to cope with not just comments made to your face by drunks or by sober people when you're out there and you're doing your thing. You also have to deal with, they're coming in with their opinions and they're just hiding behind a screen, and that can be so detrimental to somebody in their headspace as well.
Yeah. But you're self-taught piano and vocals. Would I be right in saying that you're probably more confident on your vocals because you do that more?
Yeah. It's not that, I mean, I love piano, though I don't think I've ever been fully confident in piano. And I think it's because I didn't have a natural music ear for piano. It was, I say self-taught, it was by books. So it wasn't just by ear and listening to what was on the piano. It was taught that way. But yeah, voice is definitely my main instrument, I would say. And yeah.
Because I was going to ask, if I was to go and see you perform, will you always just be singing, or will there be times where you play piano at the same time?
I move about too much. I can't stand still. So when I am singing, I can't stand behind a piano because I feel like I'm really restricted. So I need to move.
Maybe you could get one of those like keyboard ones that are like a guitar.
One of my friends has got one of those. I just couldn't do that because I'd just be like, nope, I'm moving about, and then the head starts bopping, and then I start swimming when I'm singing, and then people look at me going, is she actually okay?
You could get the keyboard on like a wee trolley or something.
I know.
But I've not met you face to face, Jenna, but I came across you originally. So I was trying to think about this. I seen Pete and Diesel at the Barrowlands. It must have been 2 years ago.
Yes, 2023.
Yeah, and you weren't performing, so I think you must have just been there. I think you had supported them at various points on that tour, and yourself and the Lorettes had went along, I assume, just to sort of see the guys, to support them, to cheer them on, because there was Rumac, and I think it was Disco Dave with the support act for the Barrowlands. But at one point in the gig, the lads in Pete and Diesel got everybody, like friends and all that, on stage to perform a few different songs, just having a good, and you were on stage, and I took some photographs, and I think the next day I'd popped them up on social media. There must be a Pete and Diesel, like a fan group on.
Yeah, there is.
Because you contacted it saying, would it be possible if I could get a copy of the pictures, and that's kind of how we sort of connected there. But how did you originally cross paths with Pete and Diesel? Like, how long did you know the guys before that gig?
Well, obviously in lockdown you weren't able to perform. So performances for me stopped in March 2020, and they started again roughly in August 2021. So it was a good period of time without, and I was going a little bit demented, mainly because I think because there's only so much video interactions on Facebook.
Of course.
To do with the music, and because I'm standing in the background singing, I can't then get the banter with everybody too. So I'm just going song, and like, hey guys. And my first gig was in a bar in Inverness called Gunsmiths, and the lads were just travelling back from a tour that they must have just been on. And Boydie came and sat outside, and it was the busiest that I'd seen the bar, but then at the same time we hadn't been in it for a good few years.
Right, okay.
And Boydie was sitting outside, and he messaged the guys. He's like, "You've got to come and hear this girl. She's really giving it. You know, she's a really good vocalist." And they all sort of came over. And then Keith Morrison from We Studio, he followed me on Facebook on my singing page, and so did Boydie. And then I added Boydie, and I was like, "Well, thank you so much for coming along and listening. You know, it means a lot when a fellow musician will come out." He came along the next time, and he said to me, he's like, "You've got tiny wrists and elephant ankles." I was like, what?
Is that, I don't know, is that a compliment or
yeah,
I don't know.
Generally, though, my wrists are really, really small. And at the time, I just lost nearly 5 stones. I was like, I can't have elephant ankles. So there's no way it could happen. And then Boydie just started coming along to more of my gigs afterwards. And he says it himself. He's like, you know, like, you're one of my best friends, Jenna, he says. And he's a massive, massive support to me. And he always said that he wanted to try and get me on stage with the guys. And the other boys, Innocent Uli, they were just like, you know, yeah, just if you want to bring it up, boys, you bring it up on stage. So I was brought up for Maria by Blondie. So that's what I was up for Barrowlands for. So that was just me. And then Donnie came up on stage. I don't think he was meant to be there, but he was. I was just a little bit mental. And then Rumac came on too. And then the Lorettes came on for a few songs at the end. And This Is the Life by Amy MacDonald. But yeah, it was a whirlwind having the opportunity to join such a big band like them on stage, and for them to give me a platform in order for me to then start progressing with my own stuff too. If it wasn't for Boydie, and if it wasn't for the lads, and for Keith, especially Keith as well, with We Studio, I wouldn't be in the position that I'm at now.
Had you heard of Pete and Diesel before you actually met them? Because they're still a relatively new band. They hadn't actually been on the go that long themselves before lockdown hit.
Yep. So, funnily enough, I had only heard of Pete and Diesel around 6 months prior to actually bumping into Boydie. And I only know that because I made a running playlist for my treadmill at home. I was running a Pete and Diesel. And I was like, that's Boydie. And he was like, Jenna, but you didn't get like all fan person with me. And I'm like, well, you're Boydie.
Yeah.
We do get along really, really well, but he knows my genre, he knows what my voice suits, and he's known that, I think, before I even knew it myself. As a musician, you know it yourself. When you're doing so many different genres, sometimes it's hard to know where you're suited. Like, I've been doing covers in bars since I was 17, so 16 years of my life. I've been singing in bars. That's quite depressing, actually, when I say half my life. I've been singing in bars. You're so used to doing so many different covers and genres, sometimes you can lose yourself in where you sit and what's good for your voice. And as you said earlier, when your voice is changing all the time, try to figure out what was it like 10 years ago, what were you suited to then and what you suited to now.
Yeah. But I had Keith on the podcast not too long ago. Mm-hmm. Really interesting guy because he's spinning so many plates.
Yeah.
You know, but he's a really nice guy. I caught up with him briefly when Pete and Diesel had played at the Emirates in Glasgow. Mm. But I saw that Keith had put up a video. He does like wee video blogs for We Studio, different artists and bits and pieces that he's got going on. And I'd seen that you were up not too long ago, and I'm guessing it was the early stages of starting to put an album together for yourself. So I thought this would be a great time to get you on, because obviously I've had you on social media for a couple of years, but you know, you've got the album and all that starting. So I thought, right, the ball is starting to roll here. So let's kind of get in there before you get too busy. Maybe you get too famous as well, that you'd be like, nah, I'm not coming on your podcast. But you're obviously there to start an album. So my first question was, with regard to songwriting, are you doing all the songwriting by yourself?
Yes, so all the lyrics and the chords that I've had so far are all done by me. And then Boydie has been coming round to mine because he predominantly started in a studio. So I've been so used to public facing for years that he started off more in a studio. So he knows a lot more background than what I do. With him playing guitar as well, he knows what chords are better suited together as well. So sometimes if I've got a chord and he's like, that's maybe not right, you can alter it this way a bit. And he's been great to bounce ideas off of. But the lyric writing and the chords and what I'm hoping for is mainly coming from me. And then I go into the studio and I'm like, this is what I have. And then Keith is like, this is what it's going to be. It could be completely to what I've gone in with. But he knows my voice and he knows what suits me more than probably at times what I do. And what we've created so far is phenomenal. And I've got the first 2 songs that are being worked on at the moment because I went in with plenty of songs, but in 3 days you only got through 2 because there's just so much to do with it. Boydie's playing guitar on the tracks as well, so that's phenomenal.
Well, I was going to ask, first of all, what is your songwriting process? So, I mean, the beauty of music, there's no right or wrong, but for yourself, do you come up with a melody first, like chords? Do you do the lyrics first? Do the lyrics come last? What is the normal process for yourself?
For me, it's got to be the lyrics first. I think it has to be the chords first, or they sort of get a lick. Sometimes I get a lick of a tune in my head and it has to go with lyrics for me to then allow it to form and progress. But a lot of the time I need to have a lyric base that I can go from. So if I've got a chorus, then I can build round about that.
I always find that fascinating. And as I said, there's no right or wrong answer, but, when I write a song, it's always got to be a very basic chord structure, like a melody first, and the lyrics come last for me. Very, very, I might write lyrics, but very rarely do they turn into a song. And it's different for every person, but I always find that I would find it more difficult to write lyrics and then put a melody to it rather than the other way around. But that's the beauty of music. It is different. But what instruments do you have on the songs?
There is keys, obviously. Well, keyboard. Keith's been playing in that. Guitar, bass, drums.
Who's doing the bass and drums? Is it session players?
Yeah.
Yeah. So see, I know you'd said that Boydie was playing guitar. I don't know if it's on all the tracks or on a select few. I'm primarily a guitarist. So when I've went to see Pete and Diesel, there's quite a few times I've caught myself I'm watching what Boydie's playing. And he's one of those guitarists that if you go and see them play Country Girl 5 times, or Country Boy, 5 times, he'll play it different 5 times. He does
100%.
But with him lending his guitar skills to your song, does he have a set pattern? Do you kind of say to him, this is what I like, this is what I don't like? How does that dynamic work between the two of you?
It's an interesting question, actually.
Or are you happy to let him go and try what he thinks best suits the song, and then you just listen to the end result and say, do more of that, do less of that? Is it kind of like that?
When we were there beforehand, I had to get back to Inverness and Boydie stayed on in the studio. So he worked with Keith, and Keith is also very good at sort of turning around to Boydie and going, maybe, you need to make it sound more like this, or I need you to do more lower end or upper. And he's great for that. But what will normally happen is Boydie will record 5 or 6 different takes, and he'll just go into a room and he'll just keep playing, and the song will be on loop, it'll be on repeat, and then it'll be from that he can then listen back to them, take what he likes from it. I get to listen back. The both of us then speak together and go, oh, we like this and maybe didn't like that, and then come back together and just create something wonderful.
It's almost like doing 4 or 5 takes and then listening to that to create the best take out of all of them.
Yeah. And the idea is that, I mean, my goal anyway is that once I'm in a position where things start getting released, then hopefully it allows me to open doors to local festivals and have my own band here. So get the tracks down first, and then get the musicians here, and then get the tracks organised, and then take it out that way.
And what is your recording process with Keith? So you're done 2 songs at the moment, or so how are you? What's being recorded first? Are you doing the piano first and layering everything on top of that? Yeah. Is that how it's done? Yeah.
So for one of the songs anyway, what you'll see from the video, there were 2 pianos next to each other.
Yeah.
I sat on the sort of the bass piano and played my songs, and then he would play alongside me, and then we would record me on the piano doing it first. And it wasn't even me singing, it was just get the actual song down as what I like chord wise, take that as your bass structure, and then build from there. It might sound nothing like what I've done in the beginning by the end of it, but that is the bass structure of the song. That's the length of the song.
And are you playing along to a click track?
No.
No.
The piano was down. I then went in and did my vocals over the top of the piano. And then everything was built around my vocals and piano in the beginning.
I like that. That's different, because I would have thought adding drums and all that later, it would be tricky if it wasn't to an exact click, because a lot of bands will start with the drums and then everything's put on top of it.
Oh wait, sorry, that is wrong. There was a click track for a beat in order for me to play piano through. Yeah, so I had a click going on. Sorry, I actually got that completely wrong. Yeah. There was, because otherwise I will go out of time. I was just thinking, how did I do that again? But yeah, there was.
Can I ask, at this stage, you might not even know, but how many songs are you planning on recording for an album?
Right now, I'm hoping to get between 9 and 11. And if it's 9 of my own ones, I'm hoping to get a couple of covers in there too. I think Boydie's desperate for me to do something like a Stevie Nicks song on an album, because he's just like, you've got a rock and roll voice, Jenna. You've got like an 80s Blondie, Stevie Nicks, Pat Benatar kind of power vocal that really suits to that well. And yet every now and then I've got these little country trills that come into it as well.
Well, I have to say, Jenna, that's not going to be good for my OCD, because I always like it to be an even number. So you're going to have to make it 8, 10 tracks or 12.
I'll try and push for 12.
Right, okay. And obviously, you are of a generation. We discussed this earlier. You would, when you were younger, you would go to the music shop.
Yeah.
Flick through the CDs. Trying to find something that you've maybe not heard before. And there would be occasions when I was doing that where you would buy the album simply based on the artwork. That artwork's really cool. You would buy the album, take it home, and hopefully it's a good album as well. But I'm of a generation where artwork is really important to myself when it comes to the overall package of an album. How do you see artwork? Because nowadays, depending on what age you are, depending on what style of music you do as well, there's some people I've had on the podcast, artwork is almost like an afterthought. It's not really that important. To me, it's important. How do you sort of see artwork nowadays?
I look at it very intensely, and I think I look at it intensely because I'm looking to figure out where that's come from, and I'm a lyrical person, so I'll look into that anyway, and then I'll reflect on it, say if it's an album cover, for example, or just art in general. Like, I'm always looking to figure out the hidden meanings behind everything.
Yeah, I mean, it might be early days. Do you have any ideas for the artwork already?
I have ideas for individual songs right now, but the coming together of an actual outside, I'm not sure yet. I'm trying to make this album very much about me and reflection of me at different times in my life, or how I view things, or how I've been maybe treated. And lyrically, I want to go on a complete journey with it. And it might not be the same necessarily through song, but lyric-wise, there's a journey to be had with it. And I'm just really excited to actually start showing that to everybody as well.
Yeah, I mean, creating music it's just something I absolutely love. I'm so passionate about it, and I love seeing other people equally as passionate doing it. And it's funny, my dad, he loved music. He didn't play or record or write or anything like that. And he used to always say to me, how can you write something from nothing? But at the same time, he was an artist. He would paint. So he would get a blank canvas and give him, go back in a month's time, and he would have a piece of art done. And I'm thinking, it's the same thing. You're using your imagination to create whatever it is that you want to create. And it's the same with music. It's amazing starting from nothing and just seeing it starting to come together. And, it obviously helps that you've got somebody as talented as Keith there behind the desk. It definitely helps someone that knows what they're doing. You've got input from Boydie as well. And to be of the type of mind that you're able to take their opinions and work with them, because there's some people, there's a bit of an ego thing where it actually stops them progressing because they kind of hold the songs too tight rather than getting a little bit of support or help from elsewhere.
I think, though, for me, the whole lyric writing process has actually been quite difficult. I have never been a natural songwriter, and I've always been so used to singing covers that I don't know where I'm suited. And I went to the studio last year and had a session there for 3 days. I didn't have a clue what I was doing. I went with lyrics. I didn't even have chords and things with me. I knew a tune that I wanted in my head, and I needed Keith to just take that out of my head. And everything that I recorded then, I went back this time, I'm like, I don't like anything I did before. But even he said, I went with so many different genres. One minute I was doing country, the next minute I was doing pop, the next minute I was doing rock. I didn't know where I was suited. And it only take time apart afterwards if I've been able to build on it now. But now, everything's just sort of changed after that session. I think being there in a studio just sort of pushed me on. And it's now become really exciting. Like Boydie's playing with one of the songs on repeat constantly. Yeah. Because he absolutely loves it.
Are you the type of person as well? Well, let's say you were aiming for 10 songs. Will you write 15 basic songs and sort of pick the best 10, or do you just go for those 10?
No, I just keep writing. And I'm at a stage where even when I was in the studio, I wouldn't showcase some of the songs. And he's like, show me them, but it's because I know that I still need to work on them. I know that I'm still not happy with them. So there's definitely going to be more, and it's a matter of figuring out which ones fit in the heart with me more and goes with what I'm looking for.
Well, it's exciting times, and I've been quite technical up to this point for any musicians that are watching, talking about songwriting, talking a lot about recording as well. So what I like to do before we finish up, Jenna, is I'm going to ask you some fun questions.
Okay.
Right? And you just tell me what pops into your mind, right?
Oh, so, God. Okay, let's go.
Imagine you've got a time machine. Imagine you can go back in time anywhere in the world, big gig, small gig. I'll let you be the one to decide that. What's the one concert you wish that you could have attended?
Rolling Stones in London.
Yeah, that would have been cool.
Yeah. Super jealous.
Yeah, we've obviously spoke. Piano and vocals are your instruments. Is there another instrument that you wish that you could play?
Guitar. I do play a little bit of violin, but that's not been for a long time now. But guitar. I wish I could play guitar. I look at a guitar, I hear somebody playing it, and I just think that guitarists really know how to make a guitar sing. Mm-hmm. And I just fall in love with the guitar playing skills.
Yeah. Do you have a favourite album cover? What's one that pops to mind?
Rumours, Fleetwood Mac.
Pretty cool, yeah. As you know yourself, thousands and thousands of great songs have been written and recorded across the years by lots of different bands and artists. What's the one song you wish you could have sat in the recording studio to witness the band record it?
Oh, there's three. There's three songs I've
Go for
got.
it then.
Purple Rain by Prince.
Yep.
Slow Dancing in the Burning Room by John Mayer.
Yep.
And the third one is actually a song called I Drink Wine by Adele. But that's because I relate to that song really well.
But what was the fourth one going to be, like Stornoway or something by Pete and Diesel? That's fine. And last question for you, Jenna. Mount Rushmore, who is the four bands or musicians for yourself, whether it be their songwriting, performance, the overall package, who are the four today for yourself that you just see as perfection?
Oh, I don't think I see any as perfection. I think there's always room for improvement. God, how do I figure that one out?
And of course, that you're like anybody else. The answer could change tomorrow and the next day and the next day. But
yeah.
for today, who's the four bands or musicians that you just love?
So I love Fleetwood Mac. I also love Beautiful South, to be fair.
Pretty cool band, yep.
Yeah. I think Adele has incredible vocals. Jessie J is a vocalist. I love her. Like, she's just like all out there.
Yep.
The Eagles. I love the Eagles. Country artists. The likes of... Oh, I don't even know. Like, I love Carrie Underwood. There's so many. I can't just pick four. But my influences these days, yeah, it's probably a massive mixture. I can't even pick four.
Going to need a bigger mountain.
You are going to need a massive, like 2 or 3. Like, there's a huge list.
Yep. Well, Jenna, thank you so much for coming on the podcast tonight. It's been a pleasure speaking to you. And for anybody that's watching that wants to follow you, to find out about future releases, to find out what you're on, what you've got going on, gigs, all that sort of stuff, you're on social media, Facebook, Instagram, all the good things, so they can give you a follow, subscribe if you're on YouTube as well. But I wish you all the luck in the future. I look forward to this new album coming out. I'm sure next time you're in Glasgow, I'll give you a wave if I see you.
I think
whether you're on stage or... Sorry, say again?
I think I'm actually going to be having songs released. I don't think it's going to be an album coming out first. So I'm back at the studio in the end of May. And hopefully I'll have a few of those songs mastered that I can then get ready for release in summertime. So hopefully, fingers crossed.
And I'm guessing they will be released, will it be through all the normal formats like Apple Music, Spotify, all those good things? Cool. That's fine. But Jenna, enjoy the rest of your evening, and I'm sure we'll catch up at some point down the line.
Yes, absolutely. Thank you so much for your time.
That's fine. Cheers, pal.
Thank you. Bye.